Hey wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. You are listening to Zed on the drive time Haj Radio today, and it's 8 p.m. today. Jazakallah khair for joining us. All of you who are there right now listening in, if you can just put your right hand up so that we all know that you are there. Of course, you know, we have this skill set here. We call it a telepathic communication with all of you right now. We're listening in, who are listening in. So do call us also. We have some wonderful guests here today. Guests or even one guest. So they just are all tired at the moment. You know, people come from work. They go home. They're going to have a cup of tea. They're going to read Salah. And then they're going to eat. And then they fall asleep. And it's difficult for them to come out. When they do come out of the studio, they are still half asleep. I have to then have that job to energize them, to instill them with positive energy. Of course, I have to come from work, run very fast, come here, and I'm sweating, I'm tired, I'm gasping, I'm breathing, and I'm still here in the studio, and you will not know it unless you saw me, that I am here fully charged up, right, firing on all cylinders just for all of you so that you can all listen in and have a great time. Of course, studio line today, 0116-4822-086. You're listening to Zed on Haj Radio, or you can WhatsApp me, or you can text me, 0774885555. Of course, what we're going to talk about today, we have so many things to talk about. The theme every day on Drive Time is to meet some wonderful people and also engage in some absolute fantastic ideas. Each day we have a guest, or sometimes even two in the studio, and what we ask them is that pour on the table 3 great initiatives for community development, whether it's for the old people, for the young people, to define a better tomorrow. We need ideas all of the time. Of course, I tell everybody, don't wait for your government, for your MP or your councillor to make things happen. You, the community, are the government. If only you could all come together, sit down together, have a cup of tea, and you can make things happen, can't you? Of course, I've got a guest here with me today in the studio. I didn't want to rush and introduce him. I could see that he is going to fall asleep if I don't bring him in straight away, right? So my brother here today, Muhammad S. Patel from Highfields Solicitors. And he's come and joined us. Thank you very much for coming in, Muhammad. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today with us.
Salam. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Of
you
course.
need to give me some of your magic pills, I think.
Of course, Muhammad, you know, I know that you're a fan of Majid Nawaz, and here you are with Zed. So I'm not a professional here. I do this as a volunteer.
I am not a friend of Mr. Nawaz.
You're not, are you? Okay. And all the other big names that you are familiar with in your work? Some like
radio.
Of course, I know that you mentioned Jeremy Paxman and Piers Morgan and all these heavyweight names.
I don't like Piers Morgan. Paxman was okay. Robin Day. Do you remember Robin Day?
Yes, I do remember him. Yeah. Is he still on BBC?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Tim Sebastian, Heart Talk.
Okay, yeah.
I think Stephen Sacker does it now, doesn't he?
That's right, yeah. So you like Hard Talk, yeah?
Peter Sissons.
Of course.
Michael Burke.
So these are some big names here in media, in documentaries.
Well, I think they used to be, I think. Probably giving away our age, aren't we?
Of course, yeah. Of course, all of you listening in right now, the theme of the program today, so that you can also join in, is to come out with your good ideas in community development. We are here based in the city of Leicester on Evington Road at the studio, and we want a better community, Brother Sadiq. We need to come at the highest level. We want other cities to follow the example of Leicester, right? Right here on Evington Road, iconic. This is an iconic road. You know, we had the Golden Mile in Leicester, but right now, Evington Road is the iconic road. Do you know why that is, Brother Sadiq?
Tell me.
Well, how much do you value entrepreneurship in the city, in any city in England?
I think Leicester's always been well known for entrepreneurship, startups, businesses that started as family businesses have, alhamdulillah, now gone on to become, in some cases, national and world leaders in their respective businesses. So I think Leicester has a very proud reputation of ethnic-led enterprises. I think that's well known throughout the country, isn't it?
Of course, our contribution is never to be underestimated in the city. We are leading the way, for sure. And sometimes, often, we are depicted negatively, right? And we have to turn that round and show the good that we do in the community. Now, the reason why Evington Road is iconic here, you see how many restaurants there are on the road here. Now, one of the listeners who's listening in right now, send me a message right away and tell me how many F&B, food and beverage outlets, there are on Evington Road right now. If anyone knows, can text in on 077 488 55055. It's all about knowledge, Brother Sadiq. Your knowledge plus your data equals?
Tell me.
You tell me. You're the lawyer.
Well, I listened to your introductory remarks, and I'm still trying to understand the connection between community development and having an iconic postcode in Leicester with national and global leading businesses. I don't understand the connection. Perhaps you're going to help. Excuse me.
Of course. What
help
I'd
me
like,
explain what the connection
right,
is.
Here we go. I'm going to answer that very clearly to make it simple. 3 letters. LNG. Are you all listening in right now? LNG. Are you familiar with LNG? Of course, here I'm going to explain it to you now. All of you listening in right now, LNG is local, national, and global.
Right.
Now, in every city, inner city in the UK, how many diversities do you see?
Diversities in what respect?
In all different races of people that live in every city in the UK.
What is the number?
Top of your head, give us a figure.
In
Anybody care to answer that? Send me a text.
In Leicester, there will be the Indian from India community.
Yes.
We have the Indians who went to East Africa and those that migrated from East Africa to Leicester.
Yeah.
You have, I understand, an Algerian community here in Leicester, Somalian, perhaps some Arabs, Pakistani community, a Bengali community. So I suspect there's a number of many races and nations that are represented.
I'm going to answer that one for you now. That is just the tip of the iceberg. You went through, you didn't even reach 10. Okay. But the diversities, when we say diversities, we are going to say now to you that from the many different countries from all over the world, that the people that we have in the city, right, is from Africa, from Eastern European, from all the Brexit countries, plus the South Asian continent. Okay. So the African, not to forget the Africans, right, the South Africans, the West Africans, East Africans. So when you say that there are almost 40 different diversities in each city in England, almost, that is quite amazing, isn't it?
Amazing in what respect?
In the fact that if you ask anyone on the street, how many people from different countries reside in your city? And they stop at 5 or 6, right? So over the years, we have experienced every decade an influx of new arrivals that come here to the city.
Okay.
And then since the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2010 to right where we are today, 2021, we have seen a pattern, and we've seen the inner cities grow. Predominantly, most of the inner cities, when the new census comes out, you will all see that the number of ethnic diverse communities that live in the inner city is far going to exceed where we are today. Here's a message come in. There are 35 F&B shops on Evington Road, 35.
So you think that's a good thing?
It's wonderful. You know why? When there was 5 shops here, people said there's too many shops here on this road. Now we got 35, right?
Did you not read the government report this morning about calorie intakes and problems with intake of salt and perhaps a further breakdown in family units as a consequence of over reliance on fast food and takeaways?
Of course, we are moving along with the times, and
are we really moving away?
We are adapting to change.
In what change?
Right? Adapting to change is where today, during the COVID period, you could see the advent of Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Eat, and people were not deploying the energy to go out to buy their food. They would just phone.
Okay, but for argument's sake,
and the food will come to you.
But I'll lay a proposition. My submission would be that the expansion of the food and beverage sector, in particular in South Asian communities, is a further detriment to civilization. No doubt you're going to disagree and argue the opposite.
Of course. Now, all of you listening in right now,
so let's debate it.
I got to inform you all, I want you to join in this debate. It's very interesting. Call us in on 0116482286, or you can send us an SMS or a WhatsApp on 077488555055. Of course, Jazakallah to the one of our listeners who has sent the message in that there are 35 F&B shops.
So your argument is that
right?
An increase in the number of...
No, my argument is that it's not an argument. My discussion today with everyone is that, of course, we will strive to ensure that many of these shops will be producing good, healthy food. Like a lot of these shops are producing grilled food, for example, right? Now, I'm not at all biased here.
But the argument's not about the quality of the food.
The grilled food is healthy for you.
That's not, the quality is not the argument. I'm sure all your outlets...
It's one of those live to eat or eat to live scenarios, Brother Sadiq.
If you just hear me out. So let's take away the quality argument. Are you genuinely saying that a complete reliance of families to consume food and beverages from third parties is the right way forward for civilization to better its communication with itself?
Not at all, not at all. What I'm saying, that if we have all these businesses on this road, is because the businesses of old were not sustainable anymore, and they were not able to change with the times.
So I'll give you a good example.
So throughout the country, roads like this, throughout every city, have got an abundance number of shops.
But let me give you an example. I mean, I don't travel as much as I did. Clearly, since March last year, I think very few people have travelled. But certainly before March 2020, whilst attending various courts throughout the land, most notably visiting cities with high ethnic populations, the one common denominator I have found, for example, my hometown, which is Bradford, Leicester, Bristol, Birmingham, Manchester, London, the common denominator in these areas where there are a high number of food and beverage outlets is astoundingly high percentage of litter, excessive noise pollution, indifferent mannerisms with respect to parking, link to knife, perhaps even narcotic crimes. So on the one hand, you're suggesting that by having a higher number of food and beverage outlets in a concentrated area is going to improve civilization, better civilization. I challenge you that you can go to various streets in the streets that I've outlined.
Okay,
and you will categorically recall the complaints.
Yeah,
that I've made.
we have.
Would you agree or disagree to that?
We have had these list of points that you've made, and we have experienced them here.
Would you agree or disagree?
Yes, I do agree. But here on the radio, since we have been broadcasting here on Evington Road, we have absolutely committed always to deal with these issues collectively with our local council, our police.
I will challenge you that we can take a walk down to East Park Road, to the very end of it, and shall we take photographs of poorly parked vehicles, litter, and noise pollution? Would you agree or disagree on that proposition?
Well, I'm happy to take on that challenge because last week we had the commissioner of the police here, right, the inspector for Leicester East, and he categorically put a smile to my face when he told me that actually the crime rate in this area, we come under this area, Leicester South, but Leicester South and Leicester East are very close together. He says the crime rate here, we are pleased with. We thought exactly what you said. The crime rate would be high here, but he said no, it's not the case.
But the police will only make statements to crimes that are reported, so it's never going to be an accurate statistic, is it?
Well, that goes without saying that in every situation we have that situation. We can only respond.
There's an old saying.
We can respond about...
there's an old saying that an economist will use statistics like the way a dog will use a lamppost.
No, so we don't have any dogs using any lamppost on Evington Road.
But the point I'm making is that can you be very genuinely... I'll give you an example. I remember I was in a debate many years ago with the Police and Crime Commissioner of West Yorkshire. And I asked, well, I think she was the assistant, not the actual Police and Crime Commissioner. I think she was second in line. And I challenged her on how how the Police and Crime Commissioner A, records crime, B, classifies crime, because there's always been a big argument about how Islamophobic and race hate crimes are recorded. So, for example, I'll give you a clue. After Sunday night, where a lot of the English footballers were recipients of racism, in my view, all those very poorly written, abusive and racist and homophobic or whatever tweets were sent out, they're not recorded as crimes. And what a lot of people seem to forget is, in my view, and perhaps some of your listeners might ring in and beg to differ, but in my view, the state or the government or the police authorities still have a major problem with respect to recording crimes that are committed online. So we're bang in the middle of Leicester. I'm assuming you're a Muslim radio station, or the vast majority of your listeners either from the Sikh, Hindu or Muslim faith or other faiths. We're all recipients of racist behaviour. And a lot of this racist behaviour will either read or see on social media. And I challenge you, the next time the Police and Crime Commissioner sits in the chair that I'm sitting on, actually cross-examine the Police and Crime Commissioner with respect to homophobic and racist social media tweets and videos and that kind of thing. And he will have a very pleasant and very unpleasant half an hour discussing how that particular arena of race hate is recorded.
That we have seen it, not now, but we've seen it for 25 years. Yeah. Incitement, hatred, and extremist views that come out in the social media that create divisions amongst our good humans in the community, right? What we saw there was absolutely... I could not even face anybody to say we are Great Britain.
But my question is...
There's nothing great about that.
No, but my question is, for all the many thousands or hundreds of thousands of homophobic or indeed racist, I think in this particular case it would be racist, wouldn't it? Yeah? How many of those are actually recorded as crimes? Ask the police and crime commissioner.
There is Boris Johnson has put some points forward here, right? But now we've moved away from Evington Road, which I'm going to finish off that particular topic, then we can come on to this big R. Everybody who are listening in right now, if you have any comments on the big R, then do call us on 0116 4822 or you can send us a WhatsApp or a text message on 077 488 55055. You are listening to Zed on the Drive Time Haj Radio. So on the Evington Road, why it's iconic road here? Because there are 8 flagship shops here who started their businesses here. Today they've done the LNG. 2 of them have done the G, but 8 of them have gone from local to national.
And congratulations to them all.
Of course.
Sure it's well deserved.
And the number of jobs they've created, that is a huge input to the economy of this country, right? There's a benefit to everybody. Creating jobs, creating tax, creating revenue for the government, and really making a difference. So they have done the MAD, made a difference. And 2 of them particularly, I'm very proud of. They have gone global. They've set up their businesses in Dubai, in Canada, and that is flying the flag for Leicester City. City of Champions, 2015, unbelievable. This year, unbelievable FA Cup. So you see, when you join those achievements in sport and you enjoin them with achievements of young people in entrepreneurship, wow, that is fantastic, right? Now, I want you to tell me which city can say that they have achieved that. Let's have it. The biggest city in London, second biggest city in England, Birmingham, third biggest city in England, Manchester, and so on.
Well,
number 4, number 5, number 6. We don't even come in. We come in at number 9.
Well, look, as
Number
a
10.
Yorkshireman, I'm not here to in any way insult the good-natured people of Leicester and Leicestershire, and congratulations to these
Thank you.
enterprises who have clearly made a massive difference to Leicester and to the nation and globally. And I hope they go on to do bigger and better things. So I'm not going to argue about the entrepreneurial spirit and flair.
Now, we are going to build on that platform. We are going to make a difference. Now, you have been here with us now for 27 minutes. You can help us with that. You can leave here today giving us 3 absolute fantastic initiatives, directives, that we can add on to our pot. We've got a big pot here. Everybody who comes into the studio, or even all of you listening in right now, come forward with your ideas for how we can make a better community, right? Because as I said, don't wait for your government to make it happen. Come, let's do it together as a community. Right? When we're all together, we'll make a difference. But if we are all running
I think
in different directions,
I think for me, and I think each city has got its own, or town,
dynamics.
has got its own individual and unique circumstances. I think for Leicestershire, and I can only talk historically because I practiced here many years ago, but I think the one common theme and thread that I see in all South Asian communities is firstly the franchisement of women. Birmingham.
What has that got to do with anything?
It's important because if you take the example of my old hometown, I no longer live in West Yorkshire, but in Batley, for example. That's my birthplace and where I live.
Not Batley and Spen.
Exactly.
You're not talking about Batley and Spen where there was an election
That's
2
right.
weeks ago.
But it's important, you see, because it's important for many reasons. There's still, in my view, a lot of communities which, regrettably, are still way back in time. They've not really caught up with the times. And there's maybe in Leicester it's changed now, but certainly with a lot of the towns and cities in the north, there's still a reluctance of seeking highly qualified women's assistance, help, counsel, and so on. Very few organisations have women on their boards, especially the community organisations. So I think that needs to change because there's a complete wealth of talent.
Well, I got to butt in here now, if you can excuse me. Here at Haj Radio, we absolutely have also taken the view as you have and ensured that here we have, I would say our producer will tell us the percentage of our sisters that we have coming here presenting and their ideas of community development. So if he's listening in right now, producers will give us figures here and the stats here, right? And I'm very pleased with that as well, because that's another first here from Haj Radio, that the number of us who have taken part and encouraged that initiative to, in sports, in the game of football, in the game of cricket and basketball, other sports as well, where our female sisters have absolutely broken barriers. They have smashed those glass ceilings, Brother Sadiq.
Yeah.
And that is something for the whole country to follow. Yeah. Now, it goes without saying that the number of qualified sisters in the country exceeds the number of qualified brothers in the country. Exceeds.
Yeah.
And the percentage of them exceeding is very high. Yeah. So that is talent that we can't ignore.
Yeah.
So they have much to offer the community. And I think I will say that the number that will make an active difference here will be more the women than there will be the men. So
and
here...
I think my second point is, and this is where I'm going to be, I think, a little bit controversial. I think, in my view, there is an over-reliance on sport. And I'm going to give you my reasons why. You talk about community, so every community has its own unique DNA. It has its own historical perspective.
Yeah.
It has its own culture, nuances, mannerisms. Perhaps one day you might want to get a roving reporter and may perhaps interview a few 16 and 17-year-olds. I'm reasonably confident that they will be able to, chapter and verse, give you 100% accuracy report on who plays for Barcelona, who plays for Real Madrid, who plays for Juventus, who plays for Chelsea, who plays for Tottenham, who plays for Man City,
okay. Now,
who plays for Liverpool.
I take that on board. I take that on board.
Right.
But
no, let me finish, please, because this is an important point. And this is a point, in my view, which historians don't argue enough. They will give you chapter and verse on the leading teams in the Champions League. Maybe not so much with teams from the Ukraine or Austria or wherever, but you know, the top 10 teams, they will have a very good working knowledge and understanding of in terms of managers and players and transfer fees and that kind of thing. You ask them the same about their faith and their historical background, I would argue that perhaps over 50% will have very little or indeed hardly any knowledge about their history, personal histories, family histories, political histories, cultural or religious histories. My friend, when you say we, the community, you have to be very careful, because the community which you talk about and the community which I represent are a community of consumers. It's not a community of decision makers. It's not a community of lobbyists. It's not a community which the state or the political parties take very seriously with. What our community has become.
So what you're saying is that...
Let me finish, please. It's important. Because not everyone might have the views that your other guests may have. Because it's perfectly fine being in La La Land,
of
but
course,
sometimes you've got to have a little bit of realism.
What you're saying, you
right?
got to keep it real on our.
I'm keeping it real.
Yeah, keeping real is what you're saying is the community is used as a vote bank.
Are you prepared to accept that when you say the word "we," the community is representative of we, the community that is now consumers?
Of course, everybody here in the human race is a consumer, right? We live in a society about consumers and those that manufacture for the consumers, right? So all of us in the community, we we are sometimes also referred to as a vote bank, right? So that's where the terminology sheep comes from. So all of you listening in right now, do call in and do send us a text and a message. Give us your opinions as well. When we have to now understand, appreciate that in every city, we have a huge number of different diversities. And if every single diversity do their own thing, then we will further expand and extend the divisions amongst humanity. And then we're going to sit and cry and complain about racism, right? You imagine if 40 different diversities are doing totally their own thing, the country, the city cannot sustain that. They cannot sustain that. So where I'm coming from now is that we, all of us listening in right now, have to adapt to change. We have to do the ATC. We cannot remain RTC, resistance to change. Otherwise, what's going to happen?
So, can I ask you a really simple question? Right? This is probably the first time in my lifetime, and my first memory of football, I suppose, was the 1982 World Cup finals. And I remember the 86 finals. I remember the 90, obviously the Gaza and the penalties against the Germans and what have you. And then all the tournaments thereafter, and maybe in the last 10 years, I've not really paid much attention to football. So I'm going to ask you a really serious question, Zed, and I want you to answer me truthfully because your listeners are entitled to the truth. Aristotle, the famous philosopher, said 3 things you can never hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth, because it always comes out, my friend, right? Perhaps this is the first time in my lifetime I can genuinely say with full confidence that the South Asian community was more than ever before completely behind the England football team. And we saw the various WhatsApps, the young students in the seminary in Blackburn, and some photos on Facebook.
No, it wasn't a seminar. It was in the madrasa.
Yeah, well, it's the Darul Uloom in Blackburn, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And, you know, the various masjids they were going to give laddus if England was going to win, and children all over the place, left, right and centre, wearing England football shirts, and all my Muslim friends on my WhatsApp had the England flag, and it was a big hurrah, you know, it's coming home. You know, there was one gentleman in a mosque in Batley who did the azan singing, "It's coming home." You know, pretty extreme stuff in my view, right? And then they lose the match, and within 60 seconds of the England team losing the match, the racism starts. And this is not casual racism, this is serious racism. How serious? Well, the N-word was used. And the 2 white footballers scored the penalties, and the 3 N's missed the penalties, etc., etc., etc. Rashford did amazing stuff for children, and at one time people or the newspapers are saying he was more effective than the leader of the opposition, and school meals and so on. And within 24 hours his mural in Manchester is defaced with, I'm told, racist graffiti. So you're telling me about community, you're talking about resistance to change, you're talking about integration, you're talking about positive beacons, positive collaboration, whatever fad you want to use. If ethnic footballers representing the national team on merit, not because of their colour, are treated like this, and there's a famous saying, isn't there, between, I think it was Mesut Ozil who said, and so did the Frenchman who plays for Real Madrid, that when I score, I am German, and when we lose, I am Turkish, and when I score, I am French, and when we lose, I'm an Arab. Right? Are you really genuinely telling me that because of your background...
Brother Sadiq, no pointing in the studio.
Because of your background, and because of the virtue of your skin colour and your hair, you're going to get pure acceptance in this country?
Brother Sadiq, it goes both ways. Within these diversities, I'm not here to defend anybody, but I'm saying to you that there are always going to be throughout the world these fringe elements, right? We take it away to South Africa. You've seen what's happening over there right now, right? We've all seen it on the press. Now here, let me put a positive spin on this, right? When Rashford missed that penalty, it went past my head because I could only remember the good work that he did for school meals, right? That was my memory straight away. So there are thousands of people who are like that, thinking that way. And an Italian friend immediately sent me a WhatsApp, and he said to me that, I'm really sorry, our players were dirty. Our players are old, your players were young, fit, and they were absolutely running rings around our old players. They were very dirty. I'm sorry. So, look at it that way.
No, I'll give you a good example.
The fact that we go back to the racism now, but there are many people, right?
As you know,
now what I'm saying, guys,
let me amplify my point. Let me
Brother Sadiq, I'm the boss here, right? Let me stop you there, right? Now, I'm going to tell you something now. Now we're going to get, because we only got 13 minutes left, right? And I hear on the radio is equality. You speak for 2 minutes, I speak for 5. We have got to do things like that here, right, Brother Sadiq? Now, I'm going to tell you something now. The big R has been here with us for a long, long time, Brother Sadiq. The big R is racism. That's what it stands for. And before that were 3 other letters, Brother Sadiq, the H, the I, and the S. Are you familiar with them? What are they? What is the H?
It's historical institutional racism, isn't it? Yeah?
Historic is for the H. I is for the institutional. S is for the systemic, right? And the R is there from beginning of time, right? So now, the only way we are going to address this situation is by never forgetting the historic elements. Let's not go back to the 10th century. Let's go back to just 50 years, right? So who came to England from the ethnic community in the 50s and 60s? You'll recall that. You've seen it in the news, the Windrush generation, right? You've seen in your neck of the woods, you had all the advent of the Mangla Dam.
But that was in the 70s.
They came in the 60s.
70s.
No, because the dam had burst there in the 60s, not in the 70s. And they all came over from when the Queen visited Mangla Dam in 1958. Right. Around that period it was. And she agreed. And most of you will not know it, right? There was a dam that was built there, and it was built by a British company. And what happened? It smashed to bits.
Correct.
And as a recompense, these many immigrants were allowed passage to England. And we've had different immigrants coming into the country throughout that period. Now, in the 60s, what did we remember in the 60s when we walked past a house in the north of England or even in London? What did we read there on the window? First one was no
Irish.
No Irish. Second one was no
blacks. No blacks.
No blacks. Third one?
No dogs.
No. You missed one out. No Pakis.
Yeah, that came after, but didn't it?
Right? And then no dogs.
That's right.
Right? So that's how it was. So today, I'm not saying that we don't see those in the window anymore and we have gotten better.
But where I can flatally flaw your argument is simply this. You can create great casinos of entrepreneurial flair. And good luck to all those innovative and technological or creative industries that are creating local jobs. And I know that a lot of these do recruit and help young graduates and young people into employment, which I am 100% in favor of. I would like to finish my bit by saying that, there's the fad in your industry called CSR, isn't there? Corporate Social Responsibility.
No, we've changed that now.
Oh, have you changed now?
We've changed it to community social
Right,
responsibility.
okay, but I think the point I would like to make, and this is something which, to a certain extent and degree, is starting and perhaps a little bit ahead than Leicester in the north, is what community power is it giving you?
We have a message. Would you care to read that? Because you are very articulate and you are absolutely on beat at the moment, and I'd like you to get empowered with more positive energy. Read that message.
Oh, that's very kind. But
No, read the message, please.
God, I can't read. You're not going to have to help me. It's an excellent discussion, Zed and Sadiq. It's very kind, sister. Simon, is it? Very kind, thank you. The point I'm trying to make, right, is you can have 100 FTSE 100 companies in Leicester which are ethnic owned. Fantastic. More, right? And I hope that this cancer of hasad, jealousy, is removed quickly from our communities. Take it away. If people are successful, pray for
Mashallah.
Give them more success.
We say mashallah.
Yeah? Take away the hasad and take away
Of course.
the jealousy.
Yeah.
That will kill our communities, yeah? Give them more to us.
Of course. Now, we got 8 minutes in
yeah,
this.
but-
Two
yeah, but-
topics I wanted to cover now.
But I want you to answer my question first.
Yeah.
If you have 100 FTSE ethnic-led companies in Leicester,
Yeah.
on today's model, how much community power do you have? How much political power have you got?
We are then absolutely in a decision-making situation. This is why I said knowledge plus data equals power. Knowledge plus data, we do the PMS, we do the power, we do the money, we do the success, right? So this is all of you listening in right now, come on board and make it happen together as one unit, one ummah. Do you know, when you see up in the sky, you see a rainbow. Yes? How many colors do you see?
Quite a few.
And isn't it a beautiful sight? You say, wow,
Yeah.
Dad, look at the rainbow.
But Zahid
It's
Bhai,
beautiful, yeah?
But I want to come back to your original starting point. Now, I want
No,
to,
I want to now move on because we've got 7 minutes left only.
Can I make this important point?
Yeah.
Being a historian, it's important that I tell your readers to research this. And the dangers of nationalism. Yeah? Ibn Khaldun, the great Muslim sociologist, invented this system of nationalism. I am Bengali. I am Indian. I am Pakistani. I am Burmese. I am Ugandan.
I am Memon.
Etc., etc.
You forgot.
Right. No, they're not a country, though, are they? Yeah? But I suspect as powerful as any country. That's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's not disrespect to any one of my good Memon friends. But the point I'm trying to make is we have to get away from this particular description. The one single thing that has finished off the Ummah has been nationalism. Yeah? If you go and read this,
Now,
if you go and read,
we're going to do a whole program on that, just an hour on that. Nationalism, culture, tradition, and these are the barriers that stop us growing together as human beings, right? Now, 6 minutes we have left, so I'm going to cover two topics here. We're going to go back to the big R, which is racism. And I'm going to remind all of us that in every decade, you being quite learned on this particular topic, right, you will tell us about the various different reports by Sir this, Sir that, over every decade.
right.
Two that come to mind.
I think the most, any students who are listening, any community activists or anyone who is interested in scholarship of racism have to read the Macpherson report.
Macpherson report, right.
100%.
Now, the most recent one, which one was it?
That was done by Munir Mirza and the recently constituted number 10 report. It's not worth the paper it's written on, is it?
Yeah. And no, there was another one recently.
That was a Sewell report, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
The Sewell report, right?
I didn't bother reading it.
No. What I'm saying to all of you, you'll all be familiar with an antibiotic. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, during COVID period, a lot of, in the dental industry, people have had a toothache, they've had excruciating pain, and they've had to go through 8 courses of antibiotic because there's no treatments available due to COVID, right? That is exactly what's been happening in the racism agenda in the racism world is that we are fed as a community antibiotics.
Yeah.
So the relation between an antibiotic and racism is that an antibiotic will fix you, but it will not get to the root of the problem, Brother Sadiq.
Correct.
The problem lies right.
Well, as you
under
know, I mean,
the root.
I recently represented the two individuals who sued the England and Wales Cricket Board
Yeah.
for institutional racism.
Okay.
And in my research, I led many reports. I know we're really short on time.
Now,
if I can
we will be doing
Yeah.
another program on the racism in sport,
But-
but not now, not now,
But
Brother
if I
Sadiq.
can-
You
if
have
can-
to.
but
You
if
have
you can
to.
just ask your listeners to
Yeah.
get a pen or
Yeah.
get the phones ready. If anyone wants to read a book, they say the book of all books about how the world is and how the world is racist and non-racist and what people have done to bring issues of racism to the public domain, is an amazing book written by a guy called Mike Marchese, Marqusse, and the book is called Redemption Song.
I'll tell our producer to make a note of this book.
Right. It's the book of all books, and it's the life of Muhammad Ali.
Is that right?
You will not read a better book.
Now I'll ask our producer again to make a note of this
Right.
book. Can you repeat that again?
And it's Redemption Song by Mike Marchese, brilliant American thinker, good friends with Jeremy Corbyn, believe it or not.
Okay.
And he wrote the famous.
And when did he write this book?
I can't know off the top of my head, but I researched it when I was fighting the case against England and Wales Cricket Board, and there was a wonderful. Discussion between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in that particular book. And that's
Now
another...
we'll go back now here to one of the listeners has sent a message in, is saying that London police are institutionally corrupt. Now we will be doing programs throughout the week on this issue, and we're going to go to now ask you a question, because you are a sports lawyer as well. You've had a lot of experience in that. Now I want to ask you a question. When are we going to see the first Asian football player in the England team?
I would say within the next 36 months, inshallah.
In next 36 months. How do you work that out? Because right now in the Premier League, how many Asians are playing in the first teams?
But can I give you a really good word of advice? Don't say the first. It's an imperialist concept.
I see.
Right?
I learn every day.
Right.
I'm here to learn.
Captain Cook wasn't the first man to find what he did. Van Riebeck wasn't the first man that found Africa. Columbus wasn't the first man that found the Americas.
So we're going to live on Radio Haj change that. We're not going to call it first.
Get away from the first.
As I said to...
It's an imperialist concept.
As I said to one of our young students here, I said, you'll be the second best lawyer. And they said, oh, wow, why second?
Well, what is this? The first person to find this?
Okay,
there were people already
you're
there.
right. You are absolutely right. It's just the same as when they say that we are the Workers' Party. I don't want you to be referred to as a worker. You're my brother.
Of course.
You and I are an equal,
Yeah.
right? So those kind of terminologies I don't like, because they cause divisions between human
and have you
beings.
noticed the way they do it?
Yeah.
In the media, the first Asian woman to be on the board, or the first Asian to be this, and the first black to be that. Excuse me, we've existed since Adam alayhi salam. I mean, we've been knocking about for a long time, but it's an imperialistic concept, isn't it? And we've got to teach our kids to get away from this nonsense. We've got to understand the difference between imperialistic narratives and pure narratives. And we've got to get this mentality of it.
This time is a time of Hajj now, and it's all about togetherness and increasing our spirituality, isn't it? And we've talked about, now we're coming to the end now. Right. What you got to finish off with is to say goodbye to everybody and give us one last message. You got 15 seconds.
Read Malcolm X's letter after he completed the rites of Hajj.
Yes.
It's online. He wrote a beautiful handwritten letter about his experiences. If that letter does not move you about the beauty and the magnificence and the significance of Hajj, nothing will.
Of
and
course.
may Allah Kareem accept everyone's Hajj.
Jazakallah khair, everybody, for listening in. We're going to touch on many other subjects we discussed today. Thank you very much.